What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be doing a video today, and I might be actually doing a series which is going to focus on the quarantine situation. A lot of you guys are probably stuck at home, or if you're not necessarily mandated to be stuck at home, you've decided to limit the time that you're outdoors. So what I'm going to start doing for the next couple of days, or for as long as this is going to be going on, is going to be making what I'm going to call a quarantine tips video session. Or series rather, where I'm going to go through a couple of different tips and tricks and hidden features that, excuse me, that a lot of you guys might not be aware of, that you guys might not, know something about, or that you guys maybe just, have some sort of a doubt about. So for today, what I'm going to talk about is track prep. As I've mentioned probably in a couple of earlier videos, I visit the track fairly often. I'm an avid racer. I enjoy it a lot, and I think over the years I've garnered a lot of good information, good tips from both pro racers, casual racers, forums, Facebook. I've asked a ton of people, and that's all information that I've gained over the years, and I feel like I'm pretty decent at setting up the car for a good run and for getting the best numbers. So today I'm going to go over a couple of different things you can do to get your car properly set up for the track, starting from tires, weight savings, preparing your engine for it to not have any issues at the track, and more. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so the first place we're going to start is going to be with weight savings. As we all know, these cars are not light. They're generally called boats, and you know what? I've learned to embrace it over the years. I am on my 5th Charger, so trust me, the car has been called a boat many times for many years. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's true. These vehicles weigh a ton for what they are anyway. I know for the most part, depending on what your options are, what your trim is, what model specifically you have, you can be up as high as 4,500 pounds without you even in it. So that's a lot of weight to drag down the track. And obviously weight means slow. So what we're gonna start off with is going to be saving some of that weight. And I like to start with the seats. Now, the seats are going to vary on a model and options that you picked on your car. This applies to Challenger, Charger, 300, whatever you might have, Jeeps. I have the cloth seats in my car, but I know that the leather seats are a little bit heavier, and it seems like the leather equipped models come with the rear heated seats and a couple of other gadgets that weigh down the car. Now, obviously, the wiring and the connectors and all that is not going to be some, gigantic amount of weight difference between the cloth and the leather, but it adds up. My car has the front heated seats, but it does not have cooled, so that's one less system in the car. And my rear seats do not have any sort of heating or cooling, so that's also some weight savings I have as far as the wiring, the connectors, the mechanics of making that all work. Nonetheless, these back seats are heavy. I've actually weighed the car between where it sits right now, which is taking off the bottom padding, taking off the left seat section, and taking off the right seat section, as well as the flooring back here, the carpeting of the trunk. And the weight difference has been about 100 and about 47, 48 pounds, taking all that stuff off. And that's considering I still have my front seat up there, which I'm actually gonna go through as far as how to get that seat off. But taking this stuff out from back here is 100 plus pounds that you're saving. And the rule of thumb generally, if you ask any racer, is going to be that 100 pounds equals 0.1 at the quarter mile. You save that weight, you might gain that 0.1 or even half of that. It's still something that you're gaining at the track, regardless of how little or how big of a difference it is. And if you are interested in, getting your best times, your personal bests, then and you're aware that even that, 0.05 seconds off at the quarter mile can make a difference. And obviously, ideally, you want to get that 0.1 or above off at the quarter mile. And it's honestly the easiest place to start because the back seats, as far as this bottom padding is concerned, which unfortunately I don't have on right now, and I will be completely honest, I was too lazy to throw back in there. But the bottom padding is very simple. It has these holes right here where they latch onto. So all you have to do is go under the padding and lift up gently. You don't have to try to force it. You don't have to be brute with it. Just pull on it. You'll feel it detach. And there's 2 of them. So you have one over here and one over here. That takes the bottom padding out. As far as the seats are concerned, you more than likely have the 40-60 split, which means that passenger side right there will come off as one seat, and this driver's side will come off as two seats. So once you pull these down and you get the carpet pulled back, you're going to be taking these two bolts out. They are what hold the latch, if you want to call it, the mechanism that keeps the seat put. So those two come off, and then the next two you're going to take are going to be right here in the middle. This is going to be a slightly curved connection as opposed to this one where it's just a straight shot, but it's the same point. You're going to be taking this bolt down here, this bolt down here, and that will take this whole two-seat section out of the car. And that's actually the heaviest one of all three sections. As far as the other side is concerned, which is the single side, it's the same thing as the driver's side. It's these two bolts right here. You take them off, you slide the bracket off, and you can get that single seat out of the car. Once you have that accomplished, your whole back seat is going to be gone. And the only thing left is going to be to remove the carpeting here, which I think is very self-explanatory. It's very straightforward. You literally just lift it up from the bottom and you pull it out. Believe it or not, even this little section right here does weigh a couple of pounds. Again, it's things that add up. Now, as far as the driver's seat is concerned, let's get over to that side. The driver's seat is going to be one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest, of all the seats that you can remove. If you want to be a very dedicated and very serious racer, I strongly suggest to take the seat out, because this seat is going to, I'm positive, be the heaviest part of the seating that you remove. Between the bottom part, connectors, which again, this is going to vary depending on what model you have, because this could be leather, this could be cooled and heated, there could be a variety of different connectors down there, but the weight is still going to be fairly substantial for the front seat. So the front seat is going to be a fairly straightforward setup, but you do have to take off, and I hope I can properly get this down here, that bolt right there. I'm sorry if it's not catching it too well. There you go. That bolt down there. There's going to be a couple of them on all corners. There's going to be one over there, and then there'll be two in the back of the seat over here where you could just slide the seat up and get the seat off the bracket, taking those bolts off. There's also going to be one more bolt you have to take off, and that's going to be the seatbelt. Now, to do that, you can go ahead and take this off. You just pull straight up, and you're going to see, let me see if I could get the camera down there. All right, let's see how I can get it in there. All right, it's very, very hidden back there, but there's a bolt back there at the bottom of the seatbelt that you take off. Now, you do need special tools for taking off all these bolts up here in the front seat. I believe one of them is a T50, and I think that's actually this one right here for the seatbelt. And the other one, I am 100% going to be honest that I don't remember off the top of my head, but I will make sure to put it down in the description, as I actually just bought the necessary sockets to make this happen. I've never personally taken off the seat, but I know that they're heavy. I know a lot of people take them off, and I am going to be doing that once I get my tune ironed out and I'm ready to hit the track. So this alone should save you, oh geez, if I had to take a really stab in the dark, it's gonna be about 40, all the way up to maybe 60, 70 pounds. Again, you have to think about the fact that it's the entire seat, both the upper and lower sections, as well as all the electricals in there for whether you have heated seats, cooled seats, etc. And obviously if you have the motorized seats, I do not, mine just slides. But even then, you're talking about the metal bracket at the bottom, that all adds weight. So that's substantial weight you're saving right there. If I had to take a wild guess as to how much weight you would be saving taking off all of those seats, I could easily guess that you're gonna be in the 200-pound range, which 200 pounds is substantial on a vehicle like this. So you can start there. It's straightforward. It takes about maybe 15 minutes to do. I don't know about the front seat. I think the front seat's also pretty straightforward because it's only the 4 corner bolts and then for the bracket, and then the 1 bolt for the seatbelt. But that should add maybe another 15, 20 minutes to the entire job. So let's say 30 to 40 minutes to get those seats out and save yourself 200 pounds. I know a lot of people might be concerned as far as weight over the rear wheels, because that can cause some issues as far as, you know, when you're launching, it could spin because there's not enough weight back there. But honestly, at least for my power range, I have had no issues of that nature. I feel like with the battery being back here, which is actually substantially heavy, I'd say 40 pounds easy, as well as obviously the rear end with the diff and the cradle and all the suspension parts, they do a good job at keeping the back end very well planted. So personally, I wouldn't worry about it too much, but your mileage will vary. It's one of those things where you have to try it, see how it works for you, and if it doesn't, then you just reverse it. All right, so step number 2 of going to the track and having a good track day is going to be having a helmet. Now, most helmets, at least the ones that I have been to, both in Jersey, New York, and Florida, require that you have at least a Snell SA 2015 rated helmet. I got this one for super duper cheap. It does not have to be a full face, at least not as far as something that isn't overly fast is concerned. But it's going to depend on what track you're going to, what their rules are, but it seems like most tracks stick to that specific rating requirement, SA 2015 and above, and it doesn't have to be a full face helmet. If you don't have one or you don't want to buy one, you can buy them used and they can come out really cheap, but I digress. If you do not want to buy one, you can go ahead and visit the track, and most tracks I've seen will either rent you one for a fee or they'll rent you one for collateral. Usually they'll ask you to leave your ID or your license or a credit card or something that they hold on to so that they guarantee that you bring back that helmet. I think the most I've ever seen a track charge as far as renting a helmet's concerned is $5, which isn't too bad for getting a track day's worth of use out of that helmet. But if you're gonna be going to the track consistently and you're gonna be an avid racer, those $5 will add up rather quickly, and in a matter of a season or two, you might as well have just bought your own helmet. It's yours, it's to your liking, it fits you great, and you don't have to worry about sharing that with anybody else. So definitely make sure you have a helmet, and if you don't have one, rent one at the track, or at least make sure you expect that you're gonna be renting one at the track. All right, so the engine. There's a couple of things under here that you should be paying attention to when you decide you wanna go to the track. While racing at the track is only a couple of seconds worth of pushing your car, it's still something that can cause a lot of issues if you don't take the proper precautions. First things first, you should always be looking to ensure that your coolant levels are at the right point. If they're low, make sure you top them off. Obviously, you have to keep in mind that if the car is warm, then you might want to wait until it's cold to double check the level of the oil to ensure that it's at the proper level, as the cooling level can fluctuate when the car is warm, since the engine takes that coolant out and then returns it back when it starts getting colder. So definitely wait till the car is cold, check your coolant level, top it off if you need to, make sure it's changed when you should be changing it in the right service intervals, and you'll be good on that side of things. Again, that's gonna be one of the most important parts of this, because those couple of seconds of racing can really shoot up your temperatures through the roof, and you don't wanna run into something like overheating or anything like that. The next thing you should be worrying about is your oil. I think it goes without saying that this is something you should be checking on the regular, but this is something you should be cautious with before you go to the track. Check your oil level. Check the condition of your oil. Check that the oil doesn't have any pieces of metal in it, any shards, anything of that nature. Check your oil. The ideal time to check your oil is going to be when the engine is cold or when it's been off for about 5 to 10 minutes. Check your oil. If it's within the required range, then you should be fine. If the oil isn't burned or black or brown or full of sediments, you should be fine. If you pull out a little bit of the oil and you don't notice any pieces of metal or any shards of anything or anything shiny that's floating around in there, you should be fine. At the end of the day, between the coolant and the oil, they're going to help keep your engine temperatures low. A lot of people think that the coolant is what keeps the engine cool entirely, but the oil also helps absorb a lot of the heat that the engine puts out, and you keep those temperatures nice and low. Next thing you should be looking at is going to be your intake. Check that it's properly connected, make sure the sensor is all good, and make sure that your filter is clean, because if your filter is dirty, your times are going to suffer. If you have a filter that you can re-oil, take it out, wash it thoroughly, use one of the degreaser sprays that a lot of these refill kits have, and make sure you let it dry, make sure you let it sit, make sure it's 100% dry before you do anything with it. Once it's dry, you can go ahead and re-oil it and put it back in the car. If it's one of the ones that you don't oil but you still have to wash, same process. You take it in, you use whatever spray degreaser that the kit comes with, get all the grease out, get all the black stuff out, let it dry, put it back in. If it's one of the ones that's one-time use and you see that it's black, I think that's pretty obvious what you should be doing. Replace it, because that will hurt your performance. And outside of that, realistically, what you want to do is just double check everything. You don't want to run into any issues. If you have a catch can, make sure you double check that it's not full. If you hear something up here before you hit the road to go to the track, come up here, listen for it, make sure it's not one of your pulleys, make sure that it's not leaking here where the thermostat is. Double check all your connectors as far as the coil packs and the fuel injectors are concerned. Make sure that your dipstick's all the way down. Make sure that your coolant cap is completely shut closed. Just double check everything as far as your engine's concerned, because at the end of the day, this is the time for things to go bad. When you're pushing it, when it's on higher RPMs for a period of time, when it's really, really putting out that power, that's when you're going to come into issues. So the more cautious you are, the less likely you're going to run into any of those issues. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be something that a lot of people overlook. And that doesn't just apply to racing, it applies to just everyday casual driving of your vehicle. People all the time just don't think about it, don't check it, overlook it, neglect it, and then they want to go to the track and they realize, why are my 60-foot times 2.5, 2.6, 2.8? Why am I spinning so horribly off the line? Why is my car spinning when I'm shifting gears? What's going on? Well, the answer to that is right there. It's your tire. That is probably the single most important thing that you really have to look into when it comes to racing at the track. You want a tire that's going to help you get off the line without spinning and keep you from spinning. I can speak from experience as far as these Nitto NT55 G2s are concerned. They're a great tire. They're a dedicated summer tire. They're an ultra high performance tire. But unfortunately, I feel like unless you really get these Nittos really hot, it can be a hit or miss as far as traction is concerned. When I'm at the track sometimes, if I launch at the higher RPMs than normal, it'll spin off the line. Between first and second and third, going into those shifts, even on this automatic transmission, the ZF, it'll spin. I've done 40 roll racing before, it'll spin. It's literally had me borderline sideways going from a 40 roll, 45 roll. So you really need to look into the tires and make sure that you pick something that will benefit you depending on how serious you want to be. These tires were very cheap for me, so that's the reason why I got them and the reason why I'm still running them. And they're only a 255 wide tire, again, because they were cheap, and I was like, why not? They're a good tire, they're a good brand, they're still sticky regardless, and they're a little wider than the stock 245s. But again, make sure you look into what tires you want to run. A lot of companies make really good tires, and there's a lot of variations as far as what kind of compound, how sticky they are, what their use is. You can have a dedicated track tire, for example, an NT05R. Now, don't get me wrong, I know people who daily NT05Rs, at least down here in Florida, where you don't get snow or ice or a lot of cold or anything, but I would not suggest it for people up north because those tires do not like the moisture, do not like the cold, do not like ice, do not like snow. You will crash. And that applies to a lot of other tires. For example, the R888Rs from Toyo, same concept. They're not very good when it gets cold. They're not good when it gets overly wet, and they're not good when it snows. So you have to find a good balance and a good sweet spot on what you want to accomplish with your tires and how you want to use them. If you live north, I would suggest using a tire that is dedicated for the track. Again, you can run an R888R or an NT05R or an ET Street R even on a dedicated wheel to get better track times. But again, it's going to be one of those things that you either have a separate rim with the wheels mounted and you use them only for the track, or you're going to be going to the shop consistently to get those tires swapped out, and you'll have to drive on them to go to the track and race. Another cautious thing that you should be thinking about is the fact that a lot of those tires with that kind of compound will wear out on you very quickly. I would not suggest daily driving on that kind of tire because they will be gone before the year is over. If you want something that's more in the middle point, NT55 G2s are pretty decent. And there's a couple other tires that are made by, I know Achilles makes a good tire. They're pretty cheap, but they work pretty good. Toro has the AZ850s. I had those in a 275. They were pretty good. And again, they're also cheap. You could run a Pilot Sport even. Those are very expensive, but they're one of the best tires as far as regular daily driving is concerned, as well as track driving. But you really need to think, do your research, see what works best for you. Ideally, what you want to do is go on a smaller rim that's lighter with a nice dedicated tire. Again, ET Street R is a good one. I personally have had an ET Street R, and those things will hook. And then ideally, you'd also want to have your front ones be some sort of a skinny. Again, another different wheel with a skinnier tire, because it's going to be less drag in the front of the car, which is going to help you get that extra little time off the quarter mile. So do your research, look into it, see what works best for you. Down here in Florida, you kind of have open options as far as that's concerned, because again, outside of rain, it doesn't really get cold. It's usually hot. A lot of tires like that. But up north, you really have to balance it out and see exactly how you want to do it. If you want to have something that's an all season and kind of lose that, point X amount of time off the 60 foot, which is going to happen on an all season. They're not very good for that kind of stuff. Or if you want to run a dedicated setup where you either have it on a separate wheel or you have them mounted whenever you want to go to the track. In keeping in the theme of the tires, here's the way that I set up my tires to get the ideal launch at the track. This is something that a lot of racers have given me as advice, and it's something I've learned over the years and that has helped me. But I usually start with the front tires. On a rear wheel drive car, you might be inclined to forget about the front tires, but realistically you should not. And the reason for that is because you should be pumping these front tires up in PSIs, especially if you tend to run the tires a little bit lower, say 32, 30 PSIs. Because what you have to think about is the fact that you have additional drag on the tire if it's lower. Whereas if you raise the PSIs to say 38, 39, 40 PSIs, it's gonna be less contact patch in the front, less drag, and it's gonna help you. As far as the rears are concerned, it's gonna depend heavily on what kind of tire you have. If you have something that's, say, an ET Street R, you're gonna be in the high teens as far as PSIs is concerned. Those like to be a little bit more on the flat side, if you wanna call it that, but generally you wanna be in the 18, 19, 17, 16 PSIs for an ET Street R, even 20 PSI. As far as something like this is concerned, which is a dedicated summer tire, I usually pump them down to between 24 and 28, depending on what the temperature is outside, what the track conditions are like. A lot of different variables are involved when I decide what PSIs I go with, but that's usually the range I'm in, 24 to 28, just to get the little extra contact patch on the ground and to get them to really hook well off the line. All right, guys, I think that's where we're gonna cut it out for today. I've given a lot of helpful tips as far as getting your car track ready is concerned. There's a couple other different things that I could have gone into, but I think I'm gonna save those for the next time I am at the track. Some of those things are related to what kind of fuel you're gonna be running, whether it's, again, you're tuned for 93, or maybe you're gonna be tuned for some sort of race gas like 100 octane, 104, 107, etc. Any additives you might run to help you get a better time. How to set up your car as far as your driving modes is concerned. Is track better, is sport better, is traction control be on or off? Things of that nature. So I'm gonna wait until I actually get to the track to show you guys that stuff live, and we'll go over that when we get there. But thanks for hanging out with me. I hope this information was helpful for you. If you have other tips that you'd like to share, if you feel that something I said was not the best option available for what it is, feel free to comment below. Let me know. I'm always learning, I'm always growing. I will never say that I'm a master at anything, because I feel like nobody really is a master at things. It's one of those things where you go through life learning, and that's what I'm here for. If you have any questions, or you want to know something specific about how to get your car down the track, how to grip better, how to handle better, how to do whatever you want to do at the track, feel free to comment below again, and feel free to share the channel. So far, we're only in the 30s as far as subscribers are concerned, and I'd like to grow that more, but I do need your help in getting there. So feel free to share the videos, whether you're on some sort of a forum, a Facebook group, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it might be. If you know any Mopar fans, let them know we're here. Let them know there's a channel that caters to the Mopar people. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.